The threshold of silence. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to leave behind the noise of the world and step into a place where bells, stone, and silence rule your hours? Tonight, you are invited to imagine that life. As always, before we begin, make yourself comfortable, dim the lights, adjust your pillow, let your breathing soften into its own rhythm. If you wish, leave a comment with your city and the time where you are listening. This will remind you that you are part of a quiet ritual shared with many, even as you rest alone. You do not need to reach the end of this story. You may drift into sleep at any time. The words will wait for you. You are standing before the gates of a medieval convent. The walls are high, made of stone that has grown damp from centuries of rain. Moss creeps along the cracks, and ivy wraps itself around corners where sunlight barely touches. A heavy wooden door sits in the wall, reinforced with iron bands. It does not swing lightly. To enter requires a push of effort, a surrender of what you were, and an acceptance of what you will be inside. The first sound you notice is not voices. There is no chatter, no bargaining of markets, no laughter of children. Instead, the deep, measured toll of a bell echoes from somewhere within. It does not ring quickly. It does not hurry. Each note spreads outward slowly, as though it were poured into the air and left to linger. You step closer, and the smell reaches you. Damp stone mixed with faint traces of incense. It is not the sharp perfume of flowers, nor the acrid smoke of city fires. It is steadier, muted, and lingering, like a scent that has been layered over centuries. Your hand brushes the wood of the gate. The surface is rough, ridged where grain has risen after rain. A small iron handle, cold and unpolished, waits beneath your fingers. You pull. The door moves reluctantly, hinges complaining with a groan. Inside, the air feels cooler. The walls block the wind, and the sky overhead seems smaller, cut into fragments by the shape of cloister roof. You step onto uneven stones. The courtyard floor. The convent greets you not with noise but with absence. No shouting merchants, no barking dogs. Instead, the faint shuffle of sandals on stone, the soft sigh of robes brushing against one another. Somewhere, a door closes with the gentlest thud. Inside these walls, sound is rationed. Words are spent carefully, like coins that must last a lifetime. Silence is not simply the absence of speech. It is a rule, a discipline, a companion. You begin to understand that here, silence is not empty. It is full of breath, of thought, of prayer, and of the creak of wood as a bench adjusts under the weight of a sister kneeling. A woman approaches. She is older, her hair hidden beneath a simple white coif, her robe a muted shade of wool. She does not smile broadly, but her eyes do not seem unkind. She makes a slight gesture, one hand raised, palm open, directing you toward a corridor. No words are exchanged. The corridor stretches ahead, dimly lit by small, narrow windows. The stone walls sweat faintly with damp. The air smells of earth and lime, with a faint sweetness from beeswax candles burned earlier. Your hand brushes the wall as you walk, and it feels rough in some places, polished smooth in others by generations of hands seeking balance in the same way. You emerge into the cloister wall. This is a square passage surrounding an open courtyard. The courtyard itself is bare in winter, grass thin and brown, but in summer it will hold herbs and flowers. The arches of the cloister rise above you, plain but steady. Each arch frames a slice of sky, and beyond, the faint cry of a bird. It is here that you begin to understand rhythm. The convent is not ruled by clocks as you know them. It is ruled by bells. They divide the day not into hours of business and leisure, but into hours of prayer, labor, and silence. The first bell you heard was for Matins, the night prayer. Soon there will be lauds, then prime, and so on. The day is a circle, carved into equal slices, repeated endlessly, predictably. You pause, and the woman gestures again, this time toward a wooden bench set against the cloister wall. You sit. The bench creaks faintly under your weight. A small spider dangles from the beam above, lowering itself on a fragile thread. From somewhere nearby comes the faint rhythm of chanting. The words are Latin, not your tongue, but the melody is simple and repetitive. The sound swells and falls, steady as breath. You close your eyes for a moment, and the chant becomes almost indistinguishable from silence itself. Records from medieval Europe suggest that many people believed convents were places of escape, where women fled from the world, or were sent by families eager to avoid dowry. Some scholars note that not all women came willingly, yet others chose this life freely, drawn to the rhythm of prayer, to the safety of enclosure, or to the quiet certainty of routine. Historians still debate the balance of choice and compulsion. What you know as you sit on this bench is that the convent offers predictability. The outside world is unpredictable, noisy, dangerous. Here the walls and bells promise something else. Order. The order comes with small inconvenience. You shift on the bench and feel the uneven wood pressing into your back. Your stomach rumbles faintly, but mealtime is far off. The air grows colder as a draft slides along the stones, raising goose flesh on your arms. You wonder if you should fold your hands neatly, or let them rest on your lap. Small questions like these become the texture of convent life. They are never urgent, but they are constant. The woman who guided you leaves silently, her sandals barely whispering against stone. You are left alone for a time. The courtyard is quiet, the sky pale and streaked with cloud. Somewhere a door creaks open, then closed again. The bell tolls once more, not hurried, not loud, a low deep note that spreads through the cloister like ripples in still water. You rise uncertain, but follow the faint shuffle of others moving in the same direction. They walk with measured pace, their robes brush against one another, their heads are bowed slightly. No one pushes, no one lingers. They move as though guided by a rhythm deeper than decision. You fall in step, your sandals slapping faintly against the stone floor. The corridor narrows, and the air grows colder. Ahead, a wooden door stands open, and within you glimpse candles flickering. The smell of smoke and incense grows stronger. The chanting is louder now, though still soft, still steady. You step in. The church is plain compared to the great cathedrals of cities. No gilded altars, no soaring stained glass. The windows are narrow slits, the walls undecorated stone. Yet here the atmosphere feels thick, not with grandeur, but with patience. The benches creak as sisters kneel. A cough echoes once, quickly muffled. Candles sputter faintly, their flames bending in a draught. You kneel as well. The stone floor is hard, its coldness seeping through cloth into your knee. The chanting continues, each syllable drawn out slowly, as though it were meant to be savored rather than understood. You try to focus, your eyelids grow heavy. The rhythm of chant and candlelight becomes hypnotic. You realize how easy it might be to drift into sleep even here in the middle of prayer. Records suggest that even in the strictest convents, sisters sometimes nodded off, their heads bobbing forward. Punishments were rarely hard. A gentle nudge, a whispered reminder, sometimes a small penance of extra prayer later. The human body after all has its limits, even in devotion. The service ends not with a dramatic conclusion but with a simple pause. The chanting stops, the silence returns, heavier than before. The sisters rise in unison, their movements a quiet rustle. They file out slowly, back into the cloister, back into rhythm. You follow the stone floor uneven beneath your feet, the candle smell clinging to your robe. Outside the air feels fresher, though cold. The courtyard looks the same as before, yet you sense that time has moved forward in a way that is not measured by clocks, but by prayers completed. And so begins the day, the first threshold crossed, the first silence tasted. The convent does not rush you, it will not hurry you. It folds you into its rhythm, one bell at a time. The bell fades, the stone cools, and the day begins. The rules of the cloister. Have you ever thought about how a day might feel when nearly every choice you make has already been written down, long before you arrive? In a medieval convent, life was not guided by impulse or preference. It was guided by rules. Some were written in the official codes of the church. Others were shaped by centuries of custom, passed silently from one sister to another. Together they formed a rhythm that made life predictable, structured, and strangely soothing. Before we explore these rules, you may want to settle yourself once again. Adjust the blanket, loosen your shoulders, take a deeper breath than usual, let it out slowly. These words are not a command, they are an invitation to drift. The convent does not shout its rules, it whispers them. You walk once more along the cloister walk, arches above, pale light cutting through. Sister Agnes, the one who always counts rules twice, appears. She is not unkind, but her steps are sharp, and her eyes seem always to be searching for something out of place. She has lived within these walls for decades, and in her mind, every stone and every hour belongs to order. She does not raise her voice. She rarely needs to. Her silence itself seems like a rule you must follow. She pauses near you, and with a small gesture of her hand, she directs your attention to a list carved faintly into a wooden board, hung on the wall. The letters are old, darkened with age. They set out the convent's guiding promises: poverty, chastity, obedience, and enclosure. Each word is short, plain and final. Rule 1: Poverty, to live without possessions. Your clothes belong not to you but to the house. Your food is measured, never chosen. The blanket on your bed is not yours to keep. Even the books in the library are shared. Poverty does not mean hunger every day, nor cold every night. but it means you cannot say mine, you can only say ours. Imagine yourself standing in the dormitory. A row of straw mattresses, each covered with a rough wool blanket, stretches along the wall. None are decorated, none are larger or smaller. You lower yourself onto one, and it creaks faintly, smelling of straw and dust. You cannot claim it as your own. Tomorrow you may be asked to lie in another. Poverty is not emptiness, it is sameness. Rule 2. Chastity. To live without marriage, without family, without children of your own. Your affection must turn not toward a husband or wife, but toward the divine. Records suggest that some women came to the convent already widowed, their children grown, their lives marked by loss. Others entered young, never knowing courtship at all. For each, chastity was both shield and boundary. You picture yourself in the refectory, eating in silence, while the younger novices sit nearby. Their heads are bent, their eyes lowered. Perhaps one once dreamed of a wedding gown, of children, of a farm or house. Those dreams are set aside. Chastity is not about forgetting them. It is about folding them away, like garments placed in a chest, kept but no longer worn. Rule 3. Obedience. To live not by your own will, but by another's. The abbess gives direction. The bell enforces time. Even your own thoughts are encouraged to bend toward humility. Obedience is not only about following orders, it is about softening your habits, until they align with the habits of the house. Picture Sister Agnes again. She walks the cloister at night, checking that lamps are extinguished. If one remains lit, she will not scold loudly, she will simply point. Her silence is enough. You snuff the flame. Obedience can feel like surrender, but it also removes decision. No need to worry about what to do. The convent has already decided. Rule 4. Enclosure. To remain within the wall. To see the same arches, the same courtyard, the same chapel, day after day. Some convents were stricter than others. A few allowed visits to nearby villages, others locked the gates entirely. The purpose was not punishment, it was focus. To remain in one place was to remind the mind that it too should stay still. Imagine yourself standing at the gate you first entered. The wood is thick, the iron bands dark with rust. Beyond lies the road, fields, villages, markets, laughter, but the rule of enclosure asks you not to step outside. The outside world may call with its colors and sounds, but you remain within stone. Enclosure means the convent becomes your world, but within them are smaller rules, guidelines that fill the silence with structure. Sister Agnes takes great pleasure in repeating them. Rise at the first bell, no matter the weather, speak only when permitted, and then briefly, eat what is given, without keep hands busy in labor when not in prayer, share all goods equally, no matter who gives them, confess small errors promptly, lest they grow heavy. Remember always that silence is speech enough. These are not written in gold, they are not proclaimed with trumpet, they are whispered in the corridors, passed in gestures, repeated when forgotten. One morning, you rise a moment late, the bell has already tolled, and the others are shuffling into line. You slip your sandals onto cold feet and hurry, but Sister Agnes notices. Her eyebrow rises, she says nothing. Her silence is its own weight. Later, you wonder whether you should confess this lateness. Was it sin, or only slowness? The dilemma lingers, all day, a stone in the shoe of your conscience. At mealtime the silence of the refectory feels heavier than hunger. The broth is thin, steam rising faintly, smelling of leeks. You dip bread into it, careful not to drip. Sister Hildegard, the one with constant appetite, glances at your portion. Her eyes dart quickly away, but you see the longing. You wonder, would it be wrong to slide her a small piece of your bread? Charity whispers yes. Rules whisper no. You keep your hands steady, your bread untouched. Rules bring dilemmas like this every day. None are loud, none are urgent, yet they shape the quiet flow of thought. Some scholars believe these rules gave women stability in a world that was often unstable. Outside the convent, famine might strike, wars might spread, families might quarrel over inheritance. Inside, the rules were constant. The bread might be stale, the blanket rough, the prayers long, but each day resembled the last, and tomorrow promised the same. For many that sameness was comfort, and yet, rules could bend. Records from certain convents reveal sisters who secretly spoke after lights out, whispering stories of their youth. Others note abbesses who softened fasts in years of famine, or permitted music on feast days beyond what was written. The rules were not stone alone, they were stone softened by living hands. In the cloister, you pause beneath an arch. The bell tolls once again, steady and unhurried. You close your eyes, the sound vibrates in your chest. Rules do not rush, they settle, they hold, they become the frame in which life hangs. You breathe, the air is cool, the silence is deep, the rules have spoken, and they will speak again tomorrow in the same way, at the same time. The code holds steady, like stone around you, waking and prayers. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to wake before dawn, not because of an alarm, nor because of restlessness, but because a bell tells you that prayer cannot wait? In a medieval convent, your morning does not belong to you. It belongs to the rhythm of bells, the silence of the cloister, and the steady march of prayers that carry the day. Tonight, you will step into that rhythm. As before, I invite you to settle yourself, adjust your pillow, let your shoulders sink, breathe deeply once or twice. This chapter will move slowly, and you may drift into sleep at any point. The first bell, the first sound of the day is not birdsong, it is the toll of a bell. The note is heavy, low and patient. It does not crash through your dreams. It presses gently, again and again, until your body accepts that sleep is over. You open your eyes in the dark dormitory. The air is cool, damp with night moisture that has settled against the stone. The straw mattress beneath you rustles faintly as you shift. The wool blanket clings with its faint smell of lanolin, never quite washed out. Around you, other sisters stir. You hear the soft creak of a bed frame, the faint hiss of someone pulling wool against skin, the sigh of feet sliding into sandals. No one speaks. Silence holds the room, even as movement begins, rising step by step. There is a rule to rising. It is not hurried, it is steady. First you fold back the blanket, smoothing it with the palm of your hand, so no wrinkles remain. Then, you sit up slowly, feet finding the cold floor, breath fogging faintly in winter air. Next, you draw the wool robe over your head, the coarse cloth brushing against your cheeks. You tie the cord at your waist, fingers fumbling slightly in the dim light. At last, you lower your eyes and wait for the abbess's nod before moving toward the door. These steps are never rushed, never skipped. The rhythm is the same each morning, repeated until it becomes almost a prayer of its own. Moving through the dark, the dormitory door opens with a soft groan. A line of sisters files into the corridor, sandals slapping faintly against stone. The corridor is dim, lit only by the occasional oil lamp set in a niche. Its flame flickers, throwing shadows across the wall. You follow, the air carrying a faint smell of smoke, old wax, and damp mortar. Sister Agnes walks at the front, her back straight, her pace measured. She counts the steps quietly in her head, as though the distance itself must be kept orderly. Behind you, Sister Hildegard shuffles a little, her stomach already rumbling faintly, though the day's first meal is far off. Someone coughs softly, then presses a hand to her lips, embarrassed by the sound. Entering the chapel, the line turns a corner, and the chapel appears. Its door stands open, the wood dark and polished by centuries of touch. You step inside, and the air changes. It is thicker here, filled with the faint perfume of incense that has sunk into the stones over years. The scent is not overwhelming, it lingers quietly, like a memory. The chapel is plain but solemn. Narrow windows allow only the faintest light. The altar is simple wood, candles burn on iron stands, their flames bending with the draught. The benches creak as the sisters kneel. You kneel too, the stone floor cold against your knees. The silence deepens. The chant of Matins. A low voice begins the chant. Others join, one after another, until the chapel hums with a steady rhythm. The words are Latin, unfamiliar, yet the melody is simple, repeated again and again. It is not a song meant to stir emotion. It is a song meant to hold you in place, steady as the toll of the bell. The chant rises, then falls. The sound vibrates in your chest. You focus on the syllables, letting them blur together until they are no longer words, but waves. You feel your eyelids grow heavy. The chant is slow, patient, almost hypnotic. Historians note that in many convents, Matins was held in the darkest hours before dawn. Some records suggest that sisters struggled to remain awake, their bodies yearning for rest, yet the rule demanded presence. Nods of drowsiness were common, and abbesses often looked the other way, knowing that human limits pressed even against sacred duty. A small dilemma, your head droops, just for a moment. The chant pulls you downward. Should you fight it, forcing your eyes open, straining against fatigue? Or should you let yourself drift, trusting that the chant itself is prayer enough? The dilemma is small, but it lingers. You blink, straighten your back and breathe slowly. The candle flames blur, then sharpen, a procedure of prayer. Prayer itself has its procedure. Kneel on the cold stone, hands folded lightly. Bow your head as the chant begins. Let each syllable fall, not rushed, not delayed.
Pause when the abbess signals, allowing silence to fill the gap. Rise slowly at the end, bow again, then return to stillness. These steps are repeated so often that the body remembers them even when the mind drifts. Myth and reality. Outsiders often imagined convent prayers as moments of ecstatic vision, where angels hovered and divine voices spoke. The reality was quieter. Prayer was routine, steady, sometimes tiring. It was less about visions, more about endurance. The myth was glory, the reality was rhythm. Both had their place, and both shaped how convents were remembered. After Matins, the chant ends, not with a flourish, but with silence. The sisters rise, their robes brushing against stone. The sound is soft, almost like wind through dry leaves. They file out of the chapel, steps measured, faces calm. The candles are left burning faintly, their smoke curling upward. Back in the cloister, the sky has lightened slightly. A pale strip of dawn lies across the courtyard, though most of the world remains grey. The air smells of dew, fresh and cool. The bell tolls again, marking Lord's. The day moves forward, slow but unyielding. A pause in the cloister. You sit for a moment on the cloister bench. The wood creaks beneath you. The courtyard grass glistens with moisture. Somewhere a bird calls once, then falls silent. Sister Beatrix, the herb whisperer, passes by carrying a small bundle of dried lavender. She nods faintly, her lips curved in the hint of a smile. Even in silence, small gestures bind the sisters together. You breathe. The air feels sharper now, fresher than inside the chapel. Your body is tired, but your mind begins to settle. The rhythm has taken hold. The morning is only beginning, yet you already feel the weight of prayer shaping the hours. Waking is not sudden here. It is slow, guided by bells and chants, folded into silence. The day will stretch onward with labor and ritual, but for now, the sound of the chant still lingers in your ear. The chant hums on, steady as a lullaby. The candles flicker, the air cools, and you drift once more into silence. Bread, broth and lentils. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to eat every meal in silence, with the same bowls, the same bread, the same gestures, repeated day after day? In a medieval convent, food was not only nourishment, it was discipline, it was routine, and it was ritual. As always, before we begin, let yourself settle, adjust your blanket, ease your breathing, and soften your thoughts. The refectory doors are about to open, and you will walk with the sisters into a meal unlike the feasts of kings, but also unlike the hunger of peasants. A meal measured by rules, flavored by simplicity, and seasoned most of all by silence. The bell for meals. The sound of the bell guides you again. It does not rush, it does not clamor like a market bell. It tolls once, then waits, then tolls again. Each note spreads slowly through the cloister, reminding the sisters that it is time to move, not to talk, not to laugh, simply to move toward the refectory. Your sandals brush against the stone floor as you fall into step with the other. Sister Agnes walks ahead, her eyes as sharp as ever, ensuring that the pace remains even. Sister Hildegard is behind you, and you can already hear the faint growl of her stomach. She always hungers more quickly than the rest, though she never dares to reach early. Entering the refectory. The refectory door opens. It is a large hall, long and narrow, with benches along each side, and a table stretching down the middle. The walls are bare stone, pale in the light that filters through narrow window. At the far end stands a lectern, where one sister will soon read aloud from scripture while the others eat in silence. The air smells, faintly, of boiled vegetables, of broth that has simmered for hours, and of smoke from the kitchen fire. The scent is not rich or heavy. It is thin, muted, like a shadow of flavor. Your stomach acknowledges it with a soft ache. The seating ritual. The sisters file in with quiet precision. There is a ritual to sitting. Approach the bench with head slightly bowed. Wait until the abbess signals with a nod. Lower yourself slowly, hands folded in your lap. Keep your eyes down until the meal begins. Do not speak. The silence is as important as the food. You sit. The bench is rough beneath you, polished in some places where countless robes have brushed across the wood. The table before you is bare for now. You wait.
The dishes arrive. 2 novices enter, carrying large wooden bowls. They move carefully, their steps measured. Each bowl holds the meal, thin broth with floating pieces of leek and lentils, and a basket of coarse bread baked from barley and rye. There is no meat today. There is rarely meat at all. Fish may appear on certain days, cheese on others, but more often the meals are vegetables, grains and broth. The bowls are set down at intervals along the table. The novices return with ladles and begin serving. You lower your eyes, waiting for your portion. When it comes, the wooden bowl is placed before you, steam rising faintly. The smell of leeks earthy and sharp. Beside it lies a small chunk of bread, hard at the edges, softer within. The reader's voice. At the lectern, Sister Beatrix opens a book. Her hands are steady, her eyes calm. She begins to read. The words are from Scripture, but her tone is slow, flat and even. She does not seek to inspire. She seeks to steady. Her voice becomes the background hum of the meal, like the ticking of a clock. The sisters lift their spoons, not all at once, not in haste. Each movement is measured, each gesture quiet. The only sounds are the clink of wood against wood, the faint slurp of broth, the occasional cough, the taste of broth. You raise the spoon to your lips. The broth is warm, its flavor mild. The lentils are soft, almost mushy. The leeks give a faint bite, earthy and onion-like. It is not unpleasant, but it is not exciting. It is food that fills without stirring. You dip the bread into the broth, softening it before biting. The crust is coarse, scratching against your teeth before yielding to the softer center. The flavor is plain, with a hint of sourness from rye. You chew slowly, not because you must savor, but because haste is forbidden. Eating here is as much discipline as prayer. Small dilemmas. Sister Hildegard, seated 2 places away, eyes the bread basket. Her gaze lingers on the last piece inside. Should she reach for it? Should she wait? Her hand hovers briefly, then falls back to her lap. The rule is clear. Take only what is offered, never more. Still, hunger is a constant companion, and the dilemma flickers in her eyes like a candle in draught. You face your own question. The broth is nearly gone, but a soft film of lentils clings to the bottom of the bowl. Should you scrape with your spoon, risking noise, or leave it, half satisfied? You pause. You leave it. Silence is more important than fullness. Step by step, eating in silence, lift spoon slowly, without clatter. Dip bread gently, never splashing broth. Chew quietly, lips closed, eyes lowered. Listen to the reader's voice. Let it guide your pace. This ritual is repeated every day, at every meal. The sameness itself becomes a comfort. Myth and reality. Stories outside the convent sometimes claimed that nuns feasted, that monasteries stored vast wealth, and dined like lords. Reality was more mute. Records of provisions show barley bread, lentils, onions, herbs from the garden. Meat was rare, sometimes forbidden by rule. Feasts happened, yes, but only on holy days. And even then the dishes were simple. The myth was luxury. The reality was frugality wrapped in order. A gentle humor. Occasionally even silence cannot hide humor. One day Sister Agnes notices a novice dripping broth onto the table. She clears her throat once, sharply. The novice blushes, red spreading across her face. The other sisters pretend not to see, but a faint quiver of shoulders suggests hidden smiles. In silence, even a drop of soup becomes comedy. The end of the meal. When the last portions are finished, Sister Beatrix closes her book with a soft thud. The abbess nods. The sisters rise together, pushing benches back quietly. Each folds hands, bows head and files toward the door. The bowls are gathered, the bread basket emptied, the room left bare again. The smell of broth lingers faintly in the air, mixing with the damp scent of stone. The silence follows the sisters back into the cloister, as though the meal itself were another prayer. Soft cadence. You step once more into the courtyard. The air is cool, sharper than inside. Your stomach is neither full nor empty. It is simply steady. The rhythm of the convent continues, carried on by rules and bells. The bowls empty, the silence deepens. The day moves gently onward. Work of the hands. Have you ever wondered what it feels like when prayer ends, but the day does not drift into leisure? In a medieval convent, hours between prayers are filled not with idleness, but with the steady rhythm of labor. The hands must move even when the lips fall silent. To work is to pray in another form. Tonight you will join the sisters in their daily task. You will spin, you will weave, you will garden, and you may even copy a line of text in the scriptorium. None of these labors will rush you. All of them will move slowly, patiently, in the same rhythm as the bell that divides the day. Before we begin, let yourself grow. Adjust your pillow, ease the muscles in your face, let your eyelids soften. This chapter is not meant to keep you busy. It is meant to lead you through the work of long ago, until your own hands feel heavy and your breathing steadies into rest. The cloister walk toward work. The bell has rung, not for prayer this time, but for labor. You walk beneath the arches of the cloister, the courtyard pale with daylight. The sisters divide into groups, some toward the garden, some toward the weaving room, some toward the scriptorium. You follow the line toward the workshop. Sandals brush against stone, robes whisper against each other, and the air carries the faint smell of wool. Sister Agnes leads the way, carrying a small bundle of flax fibers. Her steps are sharp, her eyes watchful. Behind you, Sister Hildegard sighs softly, still thinking about the bread she wishes she had eaten. Somewhere nearby, Sister Beatrix hums under her breath, though the tune is little more than a vibration of air, quickly silenced when Agnes glances her way. The weaving room. You enter a room where wooden looms stand in rows. Their beams are thick, darkened with years of use. The air smells of wool, of flax, of oil rubbed into wood to keep it from cracking. The light filters in through small windows, dust drifting in the beam. The looms do not clatter like in great workshops. Here they creak slowly, as though they too are at prayer. Each sister takes her place. You sit at a loom, the bench low and polished by years of robes pressing into it. The threads are already strung, pale and taut. Your task is simple. Move the shuttle back and forth, pressing the threads into pattern, step by step weaving. Pick up the shuttle, a smooth wooden tool shaped to fit easily in the hand. Pass it carefully through the warp threads, sliding it to the other side. Pull the beater forward, pressing the weft into place with a dull thud. Slide the shuttle back the other way. Repeat, not quickly, but steadily, letting the cloth grow thread by thread. The rhythm is hypnotic. Shuttle, thud, shuttle, thud. The cloth lengthens slowly, never rushed, never hurried. A small inconvenience. Your thread snags. A tiny knot has formed where the fibers twist together. You pause. Sister Agnes notices, of course. She clears her throat quietly. You pick at the knot, fingers fumbling with the fine strands. It loosens, and the thread runs smoothly again. The work resumes. The inconvenience is minor, but it reminds you even in silence, labor carries its own obstacle. Myth and reality. Stories told outside the convent often imagined nuns as women of endless prayer, kneeling for hours, untouched by worldly tasks. Reality was different. Records show convents weaving cloth, brewing ale, tending gardens, raising bees, copying some even sold their products to nearby towns, supporting themselves through trade. The myth was of heavenly detachment. The reality was of steady labor, hands busy from dawn to dusk. The garden path. After an hour you follow Sister Beatrix to the garden. The air is fresher here, carrying the scent of earth and herbs. Beds of sage, thyme and rosemary stretch in neat rows. Bees drift lazily among flowers. The sisters bend low, pulling weeds, trimming plants, gathering leaves into baskets. You kneel by a patch of parsley, the soil damp and cool beneath your fingers. The smell rises sharp, green, almost peppery. You pluck carefully, not too much from any one stem. The work is slow, deliberate. Each handful adds to the basket, each basket adds to the store. Step by step, drying herbs. Gather stems in small bundles, tied with thin twine. Hang them from wooden beams in a shaded corridor. Let them dry slowly, air moving gently around them. Once brittle, crumble the leaves into jars. Store for winter when gardens sleep and remedies are needed. The air near the drying corridor smells sharp, earthy, layered with 100 herbs at once. It is said the scent of thyme lingers longest, while sage clings stubbornly to cloth. Sister Beatrix inhales deeply, sighs and mutters, just loud enough to be heard, that sage smells like ambition. Sister Hildegard nearly laughs, covering her mouth quickly. Even in silence, humor drifts among the herbs. The scriptorium. Later you step into another room, the scriptorium. Here silence is even heavier. Sisters sit at wooden desks, quills in hand, parchment spread before them. The air smells of ink, iron gall, sharp and metallic, and of parchment, animal skin stretched smooth. The light is brighter here, for eyes must not strain too much. Candles gutter in iron holders. You sit at a desk. Before you lies a sheet of parchment, creamy and uneven at the edges. A pot of ink waits. The quill has been sharpened to a fine point. Step by step, writing with a quill. Dip the quill lightly into the ink. Tap once against the rim to remove excess. Place the tip against parchment, steadying your wrist. Draw the letter slowly, each stroke deliberate. Pause often,
letting the ink dry before turning the page. The letters form unevenly at first. One blot spreads, dark and white. You sigh softly. Sister Agnes notices, of course. Her eyebrow arches. You press gently with a scrap of cloth, absorbing the blot. The mistake remains faint, but the page can still be used. Work resumes. A small dilemma. Your hand cramps after a while. Should you continue risking sloppy letters, or pause, risking Sister Agnes's disapproval? You pause briefly, flexing fingers beneath the desk. The dilemma is minor, but it fills the moment. In the convent, even small choices carry quiet weight. Rhythm of labor. Hours pass in this way. Weaving, gardening, writing, mending. Each task flows into the next. There is no rush, no chase for completion. Work is not a race, it is a rhythm. Each stitch, each stroke, each weed pulled becomes another note in the song of the day. Historians remind us that this labor was not meaningless. Convents supplied cloth to local villages, prepared medicines, copied valuable texts. Their hands shaped both survival and culture. Yet to the sisters the work was simply part of the vow. Hands must move, so that minds may remain steady. At last the bell tolls again. The sisters set aside their tools, their pens, their baskets. They file back into the cloister, robes brushing softly. The looms are silent, the ink pots still, the garden left to rest. Until tomorrow. You breathe in, the air cool and faintly sweet with herb. Your hands feel heavy, as though they too have been weaving, plucking, writing. The rhythm of work has slowed your thoughts, quieted your breath. The thread loops, the hands move, and the day winds gently onward. The garden and the apothecary. Have you ever wondered how a single walled garden could hold both food for the table and medicine for the body? In a medieval convent, the garden was more than soil and plant. It was a library of green knowledge, a quiet pharmacy, and a place where silence took the form of leaves and roots. Tonight, you will walk its narrow paths, touch the herbs, and smell the earth. You will follow the sisters as they gather remedies, dry plants, and mix simples into jars. None of this will hurry you. All of it will move slowly, like the patient unfolding of leaves after rain. Before you begin, settle yourself, adjust the blanket, soften your eyes, take a slow breath in and out. Imagine the smell of damp soil, the sound of bees moving lazily, the cool air that lingers in the morning garden. This chapter will not rush. It will unfold leaf by leaf, step by step. Entering the garden, the bell has rung again, not for prayer, not for meals, but for labor. You walk with the sisters along the cloister, then through a wooden gate that opens into the garden. The air shifts immediately. It smells of soil, of green leaves, of faint sweetness where flowers bloom. The sun strikes patches of earth, warming them, while other corners remain cool and damp in shadow. The garden is orderly, divided into neat beds edged with low stones. Paths of packed earth wind between them. On one side grow vegetables, cabbages, onions, beans. On another side rows of herbs, sage, thyme, rosemary, fennel. At the far edge a cluster of fruit trees leans over the wall, branches heavy with pears in season. Bees drift lazily among blossoms, their hum low and steady. Sister Beatrix walks ahead, carrying a wicker basket. She is known as the herb whisperer, for she seems always to know which leaf will soothe, which root will heal. Her steps are slow, her eyes scanning the beds with care. She gestures for you to follow. Step by step, gathering sage, kneel by the sage plant, the leaves grey-green and soft with down. Pinch a stem between finger and thumb, just above the second pair of leaves. Cut or pluck gently, never tearing. Lay each sprig carefully in the basket, stems align. Leave enough on the plant so it will grow again. As you pluck, the smell rises sharp and earthy, clinging to your fingers. Sister Beatrix inhales deeply and mutters, almost to herself, "Sage smells like ambition." Sister Hildegard stifles a laugh, covering her mouth quickly. Even in silence, humor finds its way among the herbs. Drying the harvest, the sisters carry their baskets into a shaded corridor where wooden beams run overhead. Bundles of herbs hang from strings, drying slowly in the cool air. The scent here is overwhelming. Rosemary sharp as pine, thyme sweet and peppery, lavender soft and floral. The smells overlap, creating a mixture that is both soothing and dizzying. Step by step, drying herbs, tie small bundles with thin twine. Hang them upside down from beams, leaving space between. Allow air to move gently, avoiding dampness. Wait days or weeks, until stems snap crisply. Crumble dried leaves into clay jars, each carefully labeled. The labels are simple, scratched in Latin letters, salvia for sage, rosmarinus for rosemary, mentha for mint. The jars line shelves, a quiet pharmacy waiting for need. The apothecary's room. At the far end of the garden stands a small stone building. Inside, the air is cool and dim. Wooden shelves hold jars of dried herbs, pots of salves, flasks of tinctures. A mortar and pestle sit on the table, smooth from years of use. The pestle smells faintly of garlic and fennel, never fully washed away. Sister Beatrix places her basket on the table and begins to work. She does not speak. Her motions are steady, practiced. You watch as she prepares a remedy, step by step, making a simple remedy for headache. Take dried willow bark from a jar, pale and curled. Place a small handful into the mortar. Grind slowly with the pestle, circular motion, steady pressure. Add a few leaves of mint for flavor. Pour hot water over the mixture, letting it steep into tea. The smell rises, bitter bark, sharp mint, steam curling up. A cup is poured, set aside for a sister who has complained of pain behind her eyes. The remedy is not magic. It is simple, steady, practical. Historians note that many convents were known for their herbal medicine. Records describe nuns preparing poultices, syrups, and ointments, their knowledge passed down from one generation to the next. Some scholars believe these convents preserved ancient medical traditions that might otherwise have been lost. The myth is that of mystical healing. The reality is of careful, practical medicine, grounded in observation and patience. A small dilemma. Sister Hildegard enters, rubbing her stomach. She looks longingly at the jar of honey, kept for soothing throats. Honey is precious, gathered rarely, stored carefully. Should Sister Beatrix give her a spoonful, even though it is meant for illness, not hunger? She hesitates. The rule says no, but kindness whispers yes. At last she shakes her head gently, offering instead a cup of warm mint tea. Hildegard sighs, accepts it, and drinks slowly. The dilemma passes, like a bee buzzing away. The rhythm of healing work. You take your turn at the mortar, grinding fennel seeds. The smell is sweet, anise-like, clinging to your hands. The pestle moves in circles, each turn slow, steady. You pour the powder into a jar, label it carefully, place it on the shelf. Each motion is deliberate, almost ritual. Work here is not about speed, it is about patience. Remedies cannot be rushed. Herbs must grow in their own time, dry in their own time, steep in their own time. The sisters mirror that patience in their movements, letting the day flow around them. Myth and reality. Once more, outside the convent, some believed that nuns practiced strange magic, that their knowledge of herbs was unnatural. Trials in some places accused women of witchcraft for the same remedies used here. Yet records show that convent apothecaries treated both sisters and villagers, offering simple help in times of sickness. The myth was suspicion, the reality was quiet service. The bell tolls again, low and slow. The sisters set down their tools, cover the jars, close the shutters. The garden falls quiet, bees retreating to their hives, leaves stirring in the breeze. You breathe deeply, the scent of herbs clinging to your clothes. Your hands feel heavy with the weight of work, your mind softened by the rhythm of the garden. The garden exhales, and the day slows into silence. The scriptorium and the quill. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to spend your hours not with voices, not with tools of labor in the fields, but with ink, parchment, and the quiet scratch of quill? In a medieval convent, the scriptorium was a place where silence became visible, taking form in careful lines of letters. It was a place of patience, of repetition, of small mistakes, and of endless endurance. Tonight, you will sit at one of its wooden desks. You will sharpen a quill, mix ink, steady your hand, and trace words slowly onto parchment. Before we begin, let your own hands rest. Relax your shoulders, let your jaw unclench, soften the muscles around your eyes. Breathe deeply, once in, once out. The scriptorium is waiting, and its silence will not rush you. Entering the scriptorium, the bell has rung, calling the sisters not to chapel, not to garden, but to the work of writing. You follow them through a narrow corridor, the air cooler here, the walls darkened by soot from many candles. At the end a heavy wooden door stands ajar. Inside you glimpse rows of desks, each with a small bench, each lit by narrow windows. The air carries a sharp metallic tang, iron gall ink mixed from oak galls, iron salts and vinegar. The smell is both sour and biting. Beneath it lingers the faint musk of parchment, animal skin stretched and scraped until smooth. You step inside and the sound changes. The cloister outside is filled with the distant rustle of robes and birdsong. Here, only scratching fills the air, the steady hiss of quills moving across pages.
The desks. Each desk is plain, made of oak, worn smooth by decades of use. A groove runs across the top to hold quills. A small pot of ink sits in the corner. Sheets of parchment, creamy and uneven at the edges, are stacked neatly, waiting for words. The benches are narrow, polished by countless hours of sitting. You lower yourself onto one, the wood pressing firmly against your legs. Sister Agnes is already at work. Her quill moves with sharp precision, letters uniform, margins exact. She glances once at you, her eyebrow twitching ever so slightly, as though to remind you that neatness is prayer. Across the room, Sister Hildegard sighs faintly. She holds her quill too tightly, her letters wobbling with fatigue. Sister Beatrix hums softly under her breath, a habit she cannot quite shake, until Agnes clears her throat. The hum vanishes, leaving only the scratch of ink. Hold a small penknife at an angle. Slice gently, shaving the tip into a fine point. Cut a tiny slit down the center to guide the ink. Test the quill on scrap parchment, adjusting until it flows smoothly. The sound of the knife against the quill is faint, like the rasp of dry grass. The feather smells of dust, faintly oily where your fingers touch it. You test the point. The line is too thick. You trim again, slowly, until it narrows. At last, the quill is ready. Mixing the ink. A pot sits at your desk, half filled with ink that has thickened overnight. Sister Agnes instructs you to stir. You lift the small stick, swirl slowly, watching the black liquid loosen. The smell rises sharper now. Vinegar, iron, something earthy. You add a drop of water, stir again, and the ink softens into smoothness. Step by step, writing a letter. Dip the quill lightly into ink, no deeper than the slit. Tap once against the rim to shed excess. Place the tip on parchment. Steady your wrist with your other hand. Draw the first stroke slowly, evenly, without trembling. Lift, pause, breathe, then begin the next letter. The quill scratches faintly, a dry whisper across the page. The ink spreads, dark and glistening, before sinking into the parchment. You write slowly, each letter deliberate. The words themselves matter less than the act of shaping them. A small inconvenience. The ink blots. A drop falls too heavy, spreading into a black circle that swallows the lines beneath. You sigh softly, reaching for a scrap of cloth. You press gently, lifting some of the wetness, but the blot remains. Sister Agnes notices, of course. Her eyebrow arches. She says nothing, but her silence weighs heavier than words. You turn the page, begin again, slower this time. Myth and reality. Outsiders often imagined that every nun spent her days copying books, each a scholar, each a master of letters. The reality was simpler. Not all nuns were literate. Many tended gardens, kitchens, weaving rooms. A smaller number, often chosen for their steady hands, trained in the scriptorium. Records show that some convents became known for their manuscripts, prized by nobles and bishops. Others copied only for themselves, making prayer books, hymnals, and small texts for daily use. The myth was of universal learning. The reality was selective, practical literacy. The body's complaint. After an hour, your hand begins to cramp. Your wrist aches from the steady angle. Your back stiffens from the bench. Should you pause, risking falling behind, or should you continue pressing through the ache? You flex your fingers beneath the desk, shake your wrist softly. The dilemma lingers, but you dip the quill again and continue. The letters wobble slightly, but the page fills. Step by step, illuminating a letter. Select the capital at the start of a line. Outline it faintly in ink, leaving space within. Grind pigment, red from cinnabar, blue from lapis, green from malachite. Mix with egg white to form. Fill the letter carefully, stroke by stroke, leaving it to dry. The colors gleam faintly in the dim light. Red glows like ember, blue like faded sky. The letter is simple, but it brightens the page. Sister Hildegard leans closer to see, nearly smudging her work. Agnes clears her throat sharply, and Hildegard jerks back, eyes wide. The rhythm of the room. The hours pass slowly. Scratch, dip, scratch, pause. A cough breaks the silence, then fades. A bench creaks as someone shifts. The candles gutter, dripping wax that hardens on iron holders. The air grows heavy with the smell of ink, the faint musk of parchment. the smoke of wick, yet the rhythm holds steady. Scratch, dip, scratch, pause. Myth and reality again. Some claimed that manuscripts were copied quickly, that rooms of scribes churned out books by the dozen. In truth, a single book might take months, even years. A psalter copied letter by letter, prayer by prayer, mistakes corrected, pages scraped, ink remade. The myth was speed, the reality was patience. Each letter became a small act of devotion, no matter how ordinary the words themselves. A closing gesture. At last the bell tolls again. The sisters lay down their quills, close their ink pots, stack the pages neatly. The desks are left bare, the smell of ink lingering. Sister Agnes inspects the margins one last time, nodding curtly. Sister Beatrix stretches her fingers, rubbing her wrist. Sister Hildegard exhales with relief, whispering a silent prayer that the next bell will call her to food instead of letters. You rise, your legs stiff, your hand still faintly stained with ink. You file out into the cloister, the air fresher here, the sky pale above. The scratch of quills still seems to echo in your ears, steady as the tolling of a bell. The ink dries slowly, the candles gutter, and the words fall still. The scriptorium sleeps, the pages wait, and silence folds itself once more around you. Visitors, pilgrims, and letters. Have you ever imagined what it would feel like to live behind walls, and yet still be touched by the outside world? A medieval convent was enclosed, yes, but it was not entirely cut off. Travelers knocked on its gates, pilgrims paused on their journeys, letters arrived folded and sealed with wax. The sisters lived in silence, yet silence could still be broken by the creak of a door, the shuffle of boots, the rustle of parchment. Tonight, you will walk to the gatehouse, you will meet visitors, and you will hold in your hand a letter that has traveled farther than you ever will. Before we begin, allow yourself to breathe slowly. Adjust your pillow, feel the weight of your blanket. Imagine the smell of cold air drifting under a wooden gate, the distant sound of footsteps on a gravel path. You will not need to hurry. The convent never hurries. It receives the world one knock at a time. The gatehouse, the path from the cloister to the outer wall is narrow, lined with herbs and stones. At the end stands the gatehouse, a squat building of timber and stone. Its door is heavy, banded with iron. A small window looks out onto the road beyond. Here stands Brother Thomas, the porter. He is round of shoulder, slow of step, and slower of speech. Yet it is his task to answer the knock, to decide whether to open, to carry messages with it. He nods as you approach, his head moving slowly, as though even gestures must keep pace with the convent's silence. He holds in his hand a folded sheet of parchment, sealed with red wax. The seal is smudged, the edges creased from travel. He explains, in his measured voice, that a messenger left it at dawn. He has not yet delivered it. Brother Thomas is never in a rush. Receiving a letter, you take the parchment carefully. The wax seal bears a faint impression, perhaps a family crest, though worn from finger. The parchment smells faintly of smoke, as though it traveled near a hearth. Its edges are rough, curled slightly from damp. Step by step the ritual unfolds. Hold the parchment steady, seal upward. Warm the wax gently with a candle, softening. Crack it slowly, careful not to tear the page. Unfold with both hands, smoothing the creases. Read, or if you cannot, wait for one of the literate sisters to speak it aloud. The words within are simple. Greetings from a family, news of a harvest, mention of a cousin's wedding. Nothing urgent, nothing dramatic, yet the letter carries weight. It is a thread tying the cloister to the wider world. A small dilemma. You wonder, should the letter be answered today, or should it wait until the abbess decides? To write today would be eager, to wait would be proper. The decision is not yours, but you feel the tension of it, quiet, steady, unresolved. In the convent, even the timing of ink on parchment is bound by discipline. Writing the reply, the abbess nods. A reply must be written. You follow the sisters to the scriptorium once more. This is not a grand manuscript, only a letter, plain and brief. Sharpen a quill to a steady point. Dip lightly into ink, not too deep. Begin with the greeting, slow and formal. Add a line of news, perhaps of the garden's yield, or the health of the sister. Close with blessing, fold and seal. The letter is folded in thirds, pressed neatly. A dollop of wax is dripped onto the seam. The abbess presses her ring into it, leaving the convent's simple seal across, plain and firm. The letter is given back to Brother Tom. He nods, tucks it into his pouch, and promises to deliver it when the next traveler passes. That may be tomorrow, or next week. Time moves slowly in his hands. Pilgrims at the gate. Later, the bell tolls once more. A knock sounds at the gate. Brother Thomas ambles to the door, slides the wooden bar aside, and opens it a crack. Outside stand two pilgrims, dusty from travel, their cloaks stained with mud. They carry staves and wear badges pinned to their cloaks, signs of their journey to holy site. Their faces are tired, their eyes hopeful. The abbess grants them entry to the guest house, a small hall near the outer wall. The sisters offer them water, bread and a place to rest. Pilgrims are not permitted into the cloister itself, but they may share the convent's shelter. Their voices are soft, their gratitude plain. You watch from the corridor as they lower themselves onto benches, their bodies weary from miles of walking. Step by step, hosting a pilgrim, offer a basin of water for washing hands and feet. Place bread and broth before them, plain but filling. Provide a blanket, rough wool to ward against the night's chill. Speak little but nod often, letting silence itself serve as welcome. At dawn, send them onward with blessing. The pilgrims eat slowly, sighing with relief at each bite. The bread tastes sweeter to them than it does to you, for hunger sharpens flavor. They thank the abbess quietly. By morning they will be gone, their footsteps fading down the road, the convent returning to silence. Myth and reality. Many imagine that convent walls sealed off the sisters entirely, that no contact with the world was possible. Reality was softer. Letters came and went. Villagers brought gifts of grain or wool. Pilgrims sought food and rest. Some convents even ran schools for girls, teaching reading, sewing and prayer. The myth was of isolation. The reality was of carefully measured connection, controlled by gates, rules and ritual. The slowness of Brother Thomas. Throughout the day Brother Thomas moves at his own pace. A second letter arrives, but he leaves it in his pouch until evening, when the abbess asks. He shrugs, explaining that time is patient, that messages do not spoil like milk. The sisters sigh softly, but none rebuke him. His slowness has become part of the convent's rhythm. Another delay folded into the silence. A closing moment. At dusk, the last light fades from the garden. The gatehouse door is barred for the night. Letters rest sealed on shelves. Pilgrims sleep beyond the wall. Inside, the sisters file into chapel for prayer once more. The world outside continues, but within, the rhythm holds steady. The paper rests, the seal cools and silence returns. The gate is shut, the road is empty, and the convent breathes in quiet once more. Festivals and feast days. Have you ever wondered how a place of silence and routine might feel when the rhythm bends just slightly into celebration? In a medieval convent, most days followed the same pattern. Prayers, work, meals. Yet scattered through the year were days that shimmered with small brightness. Feast days, holy days, festivals that marked the calendar and gave the sisters something different to anticipate. They were not grand, not filled with riotous noise or extravagant food, as in villages and towns. But within these walls, even a sprig of green, a spoonful of honey, or a hymn sung just a little louder, felt like abundance. Before we begin, allow yourself to settle. Dim the light, if you wish. Adjust your blanket. Breathe in slowly. Let the air out even more slowly. Imagine the sound of bells not only tolling for prayer, but ringing with a trace of joy. This chapter will move gently, describing preparations and moments of small delight, each step as slow as a candle burning down. The approach of a feast. The convent calendar is marked by saints' days, holy feasts, and the changing seasons. Ordinary days bring broth and bread. Feast days bring broth with herbs, bread with honey, sometimes even cheese or fish. The difference is not great, but it is felt. The sisters know the dates well, whispering them to one another weeks in advance. Sister Hildegard, whose appetite is her most constant companion, marks the days carefully in her mind, sighing longingly whenever one draws near. Sister Agnes, ever precise, checks that the rules of preparation are followed exactly. Sister Beatrix smiles more on such mornings, humming softly as she gathers sprigs of rosemary to weave into garlands. Step by step preparing the chapel. Sweep the stone floor carefully, removing dust with straw brooms. Place candles on the altar, straightening them until their wicks stand even. Arrange flowers or greenery in clay jars, lavender in summer, pine branches in winter. Polish the simple wooden cross until it glows faintly in the candlelight. Hang a cloth, woven by the sisters behind the altar as a sign of honor.
The chapel smells of beeswax and pine. The light catches on polished wood, making it glow warmer than usual. The silence feels softer here, not heavy but lifted slightly, as though the stones themselves approve of the coming celebration. The sisters sing together, their voices weaving through the chapel like threads in a tapestry. Hildegard cannot help but sing with more force, her notes louder than the others. Agnes frowns, her eyebrow arched, but she says nothing. Beatrix lets her voice curl around the melody, gentle as the herbs she ties into garlands. The sound fills the chapel, not thunderous, not dramatic, but steady, calm and joyful in its quiet way. To those outside the walls it might sound plain. To the sisters within it feels abundant, a feast of sound. A step-by-step baking feast bread. Bake, coarse flour, sift it slowly through cloth. A mix with water, a pinch of salt, and on feast days a little honey. Knead the dough with patient hands, pressing and folding. Let it rest near the fire, rising gently, the air filled with a yeasty smell. Bake on hot stones until the crust darkens, the inside soft. The smell of baking spreads through the cloister, warmer and sweeter than usual. Hildegard inhales deeply, her eyes half closed. She whispers that the smell alone feels like a feast, though she quickly glances at Agnes to see if she heard. Agnes adjusts her sleeves, pretending not to notice. A small dilemma. When the bread is served, each sister receives a small piece, golden at the edges, still faintly warm. The honey glistens on the crust. You chew slowly, the sweetness unfolding on your tongue. It is richer than ordinary bread, but still measured, still portioned. Hildegard looks at the basket, at the single piece left within. Her hand twitches. Should she take it, or leave it for another? Her stomach urges yes. The rule whispers no. She lowers her gaze, letting the basket pass. The dilemma lingers in her sigh. Feast day meal. The refectory is brighter today. Candles burn in more places, their wax dripping onto polished wood. The broth contains carrots and herbs, richer than usual. Beside each bowl lies not only bread but cheese, soft, pale, and faintly sharp. The sisters eat in silence, as always, while Sister Beatrix reads aloud from scripture. Yet even silence feels warmer when the food is different. You taste the cheese slowly, its tang sharp on your tongue. It is not abundance as the world knows it, but within these walls, it is plenty. Myth and reality. Many outside believed convents, celebrated with great wealth, feasting like nobles on feast days. Records show something gentle. Yes, food was improved, but only slightly. A little butter, a spoon of honey, a wedge of cheese. Decoration in the chapel, candles on the altar, flowers gathered from the garden. The myth was excess, the reality was measured joy. Yet measured joy was still joy. A moment of humor. As the sisters return to the cloister after the feast meal, Hildegard lingers, looking mournfully at a crumb of cheese left on the table. She reaches out thinking no one will see, but Agnes's eyes narrow. Hildegard pulls back her hand quickly, face flushing. Beatrix hides a smile behind her sleeve. Even in silence, humor ripples gently through the group, a secret warmth shared among them. Evening hymns. At dusk the sisters gather again in chapel. Candles burn low, their flames glowing against stone. The hymn rises one more time, voices blending. The sound is calm, steady, almost like the ordinary chants, yet lifted just enough to feel like celebration. You close your eyes, letting the voices wash over you. The hymn is not a song of ecstasy, but of patience, gratitude and gentle joy. As night falls, the garlands remain on the altar, the crumbs of honey bread gone, the candles guttering into pools of wax. The feast has ended, but its warmth lingers in the air, in the memory of sweetness, in the echo of hymn. The songs taper into silence, the candles sink into wax, and the convent folds once more into rest. Shadows of doubt and discipline. Have you ever wondered what it might feel like to live in a place where every hour is measured, every action prescribed, and yet the human heart still drifts in its own direction? A convent was built of stone, of silence, of rule, but inside those walls were women, not statues. They carried doubts, temptations, small acts of defiance, and the steady weight of discipline. None of it was loud, none of it was violent, but the shadows of uncertainty and the rituals of correction shaped life as much as the prayers and the meal. As we step into this chapter, let yourself grow still, adjust your blanket, breathe deeply, slowly. Imagine the cool air of a cloister at dusk, the way shadows pull in corners, the sound of sandals brushing stone, This chapter will not it will unfold gently, showing you how doubt and discipline lived quietly in the convent. The restlessness of silence. The day has ended, prayers said, and yet you find yourself restless. The silence is heavy, pressing close like a thick cloak. Around you the dormitory is filled with steady breathing as other sisters sleep. You stare at the ceiling beams, dark against darker stone, and wonder, is this all there is? Historians suggest that many women entered convents young, some barely in their teens, some embraced the rhythm, others struggled. Records speak of doubts confessed to abbesses, uncertainty about faith, about vows, about leaving the world behind. The convent did not banish restlessness, it contained it, softened it, gave it space to settle slowly. A whispered confession. In the morning, you walk the cloister beside Sister Beatrix. She senses your heaviness and nods toward the chapel. There confession awaits. You kneel, the wood of the bench pressing into your knees, the air thick with candle smoke. You whisper your doubt. Should you have stayed in the world? Should you have chosen differently? The abbess listens quietly, then prescribes not harsh punishment, but patience, more prayer, more silence. Time itself will soften the question.
Step by step, small penances. Discipline in the convent was rarely dramatic. It was quiet, measured, almost gentle. Rise earlier than usual, and spend an extra hour in prayer. Take a smaller portion of bread at the next meal. Mako, kneel longer on the cold stone floor during vigils. Perform an extra task in silence, sweeping, mending, weeding. Confess again, letting words lighten the weight. Each step is simple, almost mundane, yet together they remind the sister that discipline is not about pain, but about returning to rhythm. Hildegard and the hidden bread. Sister Hildegard, always hungry, slips once again into small disobedience. After supper, she hides a crust of bread in her sleeve, intending to eat it later, but the crust leaves crumbs. In the morning, Agnes notices them on the floor. She raises one eyebrow, sharp as a quill's tip. Hildegard blushes deeply. The abbess calls Hildegard forward. The penance is simple, fasting until the next evening. Hildegard lowers her head, stomach already protesting. The discipline is quiet, but it lingers. Later, Beatrix slips her a sprig of mint, whispering that it will calm her hunger. The rules stand, but kindness weaves among them. Myth and reality. Stories told outside sometimes painted convents as harsh prisons, where women were whipped or starved for small mistakes. Records reveal something quieter. Discipline was real, but often gentle. Extra prayers, fasting, small humiliations. The goal was not to break the spirit, but to bend it back into shape. The myth was cruelty. The reality was steadiness, softened by human kindness. The weight of boredom. One afternoon, while copying text in the scriptorium, your mind drifts. The letters blur together. Your hand moves, but your thoughts wander beyond the walls. Fields, markets, laughter you barely remember. You shake your head, but the boredom remains. Should you admit it? Should you confess that prayer feels heavy, that the work feels endless? Or should you remain silent, waiting for the feeling to pass? The dilemma is small, yet it presses against your ribs like a hidden stone. Historians note that boredom was a common companion in cloister. Not every day felt holy, many felt long, yet the sisters endured, believing that endurance itself was a form of devotion. Step by step, correcting a mistake in the scriptorium. Notice the error, a crooked letter, an ink blot. Take a small knife, sharpened, scrape the parchment gently, removing the mistake. Smooth the surface with pumice, soft as sand. Rewrite slowly, carefully, correcting what was lost. The process is patient. The mistake does not vanish quickly. It is removed slowly, almost tenderly. Discipline of the page mirrors discipline of the self. Mistakes are not punished harshly. They are corrected, layer by layer, until smooth again. The shadows of temptation. Late one evening, in the garden, you pause too long by the gate. Beyond lies the road. The world continues outside. Markets, families, colors, smells. For a moment you imagine walking away. The thought lingers, heavy as a shadow, yet the bell tolls in the distance. Its sound folds around you, drawing you back. You turn, step into the cloister, close the gate firmly. The temptation fades, the wall holds you steady once more. Humor amid shadows. Even in discipline, humor creeps quietly. When Hildegard fasts, she groans loudly during prayers, clutching her stomach. Beatrix hides a smile, offering her a sprig of fen. Agnes sniffs disapprovingly, but her lips twitch almost into a smile. Even shadows cannot erase small laughter. The convent is not perfect. It holds doubts, temptations, small disobediences, yet its discipline is steady, its rhythm unbroken. Shadows pass, questions linger, but silence absorbs them all. The silence presses close, the stone holds your secrets, and the night folds gently around you. Nightfall in the cloister. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to end a day in a place where every sound, every movement, every ritual is measured? In a medieval convent, the day does not close with chatter or firelight, but with prayers, silence, and the slow folding of darkness around stone. Night is not an ending, but another ritual, one that prepares the body to rest and the mind to drift into the rhythm of tomorrow. Tonight you will walk with the sisters through their final hours, until the candles gutter out and the convent lies still. Before we begin, make yourself comfortable, adjust your pillow, let your breathing soften and close your eyes if you wish. Imagine the cool weight of a wool blanket, the smell of extinguished candles, and the faint creak of straw beneath you. This chapter will not hurry, it will settle you. As the convent settles into night, the bell for Compline, the bell tolls once more, its sound deep and slow. It does not call for labor, nor for meals, but for the final prayer of the day, Compline. The sisters file into the chapel, sandals brushing softly against the cloister stones. The air grows cooler as the sun fades, shadows lengthen along the walls, stretching into corners. Inside the chapel, candles burn low, their flames flicker, throwing uneven light across rough stone. The air smells of wax and faint smoke, layered over the steady scent of incense. The sisters kneel on benches, robes pooling around them. The chant begins. Step by step, Compline. Bow your head as the first note is sung. Fold your hands loosely, palms resting together. Let the chant rise and fall, joining only when you are steady. Pause in silence after each line, letting the words linger. End with a final bow. Rise slowly, and wait for the abbess's nod. The chant is softer than the day's earlier prayers. It is not meant to rouse, it is meant to soothe. The notes stretch long, fading gently into one another. The sisters' voices blend into a single sound, like water flowing in a slow stream. Historians note that Compline was the most beloved of the daily prayers, for it marked rest. Some manuscripts even describe it as a lullaby for the soul, a way to close the day with peace. A small dilemma. During the chant, Hildegard's stomach growls loudly in the silence. A few sisters glance her way, lips pressed to hide faint smiles. Should she confess later that her mind was not on prayer but on hunger? Or should she let the sound pass, trusting that God forgives rumbling bellies? The dilemma flickers across her face, then fades as the chant continues. Extinguishing candles. When the final prayer ends, Sister Agnes rises, her steps sharp and measured. She moves from candle to candle, pinching each flame between iron snuffers. Smoke curls upward, carrying the smell of burned wick. The light fades, leaving the chapel dim. Only a single lantern is left lit, to guide the sisters back to the dormitory. The darkness feels heavier without the flames, yet it is not frightening. It is steady, folded into the rhythm of the convent. Returning to the dormitory, the sisters walk the cloister in silence. The night air is cool, carrying the smell of damp stone and distant earth. Above, the sky is dark, stars faintly visible through narrow arches. Sandals scrape softly against the floor. No one speaks. The only sound is the rhythm of steps, steady as a heartbeat. At the dormitory door, Brother Thomas is already there, slow as ever, ensuring the latch is secure. He nods gravely, though his eyes droop with his own weariness. The sisters file inside, are preparing for rest. The dormitory is long, lined with straw mattresses on low wooden frames. Each is covered with a wool blanket, rough and heavy. The air smells of straw, dust and the faint lanolin of unwashed wool. A few windows are cracked, letting in a thin draft that pricks the skin. Step by step the routine unfolds. Fold robes neatly at the foot of the bed. Lay down on the straw, pulling the blanket over your body. Cross yourself once, whispering a final prayer. Adjust your position quietly, disturbing no one. Let silence take hold. The straw rustles faintly beneath you. The blanket presses close, heavy and warm in some places, thin in others. Your breath fogs briefly in the cool air, then disappears. A small dilemma. You pull the blanket higher, covering your head for warmth, but the air grows stale beneath it. Should you leave it there, cozy but suffocating, or fold it back, letting cold drafts brush your face? You compromise, leaving a small gap for air. Such small choices fill the convent night, quiet dilemmas, that never end in drama, only in stillness. Sounds of the dormitory, silence reigns, but not perfectly. A sister coughs softly, another shifts on her straw, the frame creaking. Hildegard sighs heavily, her hunger not forgotten even in sleep. Beatrix hums faintly, perhaps without realizing it, a note that blends with the whisper of wind through cracks in the wall. Agnes clears her throat once, and the hum ceases. Yet even Agnes cannot prevent the soft snore that rises from a novice at the far end. It grows steady, a rhythm in the dark, almost blending with the silence itself. Myth and reality. The myth of convent nights paints them as serene, untouched by discomfort, filled with angelic peace. The reality was colder. Drafts crept through stone, straw, itched, blankets scratched, snores and coughs punctuated silence. And yet, despite these discomforts, many sisters described a sense of peace, of safety behind walls, of rest found in routine. The myth was perfection. The reality was steady imperfection, softened by discipline. Dreams behind stone walls. As you close your eyes, you wonder what dreams the sisters carry. Some dream of their childhood homes, of mothers and fathers long gone. Some dream of food, tables heavy with dishes never seen here. Some dream of nothing at all, their minds too weary. Dreams are not spoken of in the morning, they vanish with the toll of the bell, but in the dark, they ripple quietly, unseen. The convent sleep. The straw rustles softly, the air cools against the stone, and the stars linger above, unseen but steady. Candles have gone dark, prayers have ended, and silence has folded itself like a blanket around every bed. The convent sleeps, the stars linger and you drift with them into rest.